Hello Junior 5 and welcome to another revision lesson. Today we're going to revise the past simple tense. How can I use or when can I use the past simple tense, or what's the meaning of past simple tense? Well, past simple tense speaks about something or an action that happened and finished in the past. Something happened and finished in the past. So let's look at the first sentence. I walked home yesterday. I walked home yesterday. She went to the park last weekend. She went to the park last weekend. So if you looked here, I have the word yesterday, which is the key word for the past. And here we have weekend. Weekend means last weekend. Last weekend means that's finished, the last weekend. So if you look at the first sentence, I walked home yesterday. Can you tell me where is the verb? Where is the action verb? That's correct. Walked. Okay, can you tell me what's the infinitive form of walked? What's the original form? It's walk. That's correct. That means that I add ed. That's correct. The next one, she went to the park. Where is the action verb? That's correct. The action verb is went. Okay, what's the infinitive form of went? Good. It's go. So if you noticed here, in the first sentence we have walk and we just add ed to the verb. And the second sentence we have went, which became go. So what's the meaning of this? Let me remind you that in past simple we have two kinds of verbs. One is called regular verb and one is called, yes, that's correct, irregular verb. Okay. How can I change a verb or a regular verb to the past? We said that the difference between the regular and the irregular, that in the regular verb, I don't change the verb. I leave the verb as it is and I just add letters, which will be D, ed, or ied. In the irregular form, I can change all the verb or change nothing, which we will see now. So let's go for the regular verb. I can add d. So if you can remind me, when can I add d? That's correct. If the verb ends with e, like for example, the verb dance. So the verb dance ends with e, so to change it to past, I will say, that's correct, danced. I will add ed. Okay, let's go for the second one, which will be the ed. If you can remind me, when can I add ed? That's correct. If the verb ends with a consonant letter. So when the verb ends with a consonant letter, I put ed. For example, the verb wash. The verb wash ends with h and h is consonant, so I have to put ed, will be washed. Okay, the second one, which will be ied. If you can remind me, when can I add ied? That's correct. If the verb ends with y, but be careful, it must, before the y we must have a consonant letter. So for example, the verb cry. Cry ends with y and before the y we have a consonant letter. So to change this one to past, I cancel the y and put ied, so it becomes cried. Okay, so if you look here, I didn't change the verb, I just add letters, which are d, ed, or ied. Okay, we said in the irregular verbs, I can change all the verb or change nothing. For example, if you can remember, what's the past of go? That's correct, went. Okay, what's the past of make? Right, made. What's the past of do or does? Correct, it's did. So if you looked here, we change the verb. We don't add letters, we can change the verb. And I said, or we can change nothing. For example, cut, shut, put. In the past, they stay the same. Cut, shut, put. So they are the same. So I hope you remember now the rules. So let's move on to the next part. The next part will be the negative form. The last part was the affirmative form. Affirmative means a normal sentence. And now we'll move on to the negative form. And we all know negative means that I have to put not. So let's look here. I cleaned my room last night. Now I need to change this sentence to negative. Do you remember how can I change it to negative? That's correct. I have to use didn't. So I will say I didn't. Do you remember that after didn't or after did, I have to put the verb in the infinitive form? So cleaned will be clean. So I didn't clean my room last night. Okay, the second one. She slept early yesterday. And I need to change this one to negative, so it will be she. Now, I need to put the negative, so I'll use didn't. That's correct. So she didn't, and the verb is slept. So what's the infinitive of slept? Sleep. Great. So she didn't sleep early yesterday. That's great. So remember that I used didn't in the negative form or did not in the negative form, and it must be followed by the infinitive form. Again, I used didn't or did not, and it must be followed by the infinitive form. Now let's move on to the question form. Now in the question we know that we have two kinds of questions, which is yes and no question and WH question. We call it yes and no because we answer with yes and no, and we call it WH because I start with WH word. Now in yes and no question, I have to start with the helping verb, which in past simple is did. That's right. So did they study Arabic? So let's try to answer it once with yes and once with no. So did they study Arabic? So I will say yes. And remember, when I answer with yes, I have did, and I have the verb. So that means that I have changed the verb to the past. I have to change the verb to the past. So yes, they. Now what's the past of study? Study ends with Y and before the Y consonant, so I have to cancel the Y and put IED. So yes, they studied Arabic. Okay, I want to answer with no now. No means negative, so I have to use didn't. That's correct. So no, they didn't. Now after didn't, I put the infinitive. So no, they didn't study Arabic. And put full stop. Okay, so this was for yes and no question. Now let's move on to WH question. In WH question, we said before that I have to start with a WH word, which is like where, what, when, why, and after it, be careful that we must put the helping verb. So for example, where did you go last night? And we have here grandparents. So this is not a yes and no question, so I cannot answer with yes or no. So I have to answer with affirmative sentence. You in the question will be correct, I in the answer. Now be careful. I said, where did you go? So I have go and I have did. That means I have to change the verb to the past. That's correct. So yes, I, the past of go, went. So where did you go last weekend? I went to my grandparents. You can say last weekend or just stop. I went to my grandparents last weekend. This is how to answer the question. Now we need to know how to form the question. For example, yes, she ate chicken and soup yesterday. And another one, she ate chicken and soup yesterday. If you look at these two sentences, you would think that they are the same, but no, be careful, they are not the same. So let's look. Whenever you want to make a question, you have to be careful. So you look at the first word first. So the first word here is yes. It means yes and no question. Okay, the first word here is she. So this is not yes and no. So it means WH. That's correct. So let's go for the first one. Yes, she ate chicken and soup yesterday. So let's look here. Let's look at the verb. Can you see the verb? Ate. It's in the past of eat. So I have to start a yes and no question in the past. So what do I do? What do I use in the past yes and no question? Correct. Did. And complete. Did she? And do you remember that I said after did I put the verb in the infinitive? So what's the infinitive of ate? Correct. So did she eat chicken and soup yesterday? And put a question mark. Don't forget that because we are forming a question. Now let's go for the second one. She ate chicken and soup yesterday. So we said to make a WH question, first you have to choose the thing that you're going to ask about. So for example, we will ask about chicken and soup. So to ask about things like chicken and soup, we start with what. That's correct. So what? And after WH word, I have to put the helping verb in the past will be did. So what did she, do you remember I said after did the verb infinitive? So what did she eat? Can I say chicken and soup? No, because I'm asking about chicken and soup. So what did she eat yesterday? And don't forget the question mark. Now we'll move on to the answer the questions. Oh, we're going to practice. Okay, so we're going to start with do as shown. She visited France last week and he said change to negative. So we need to change this one to negative. She visited France last week. So I will say she, and to change to negative we write didn't. That's right. She didn't. Now be careful that after didn't I put the verb infinitive. So she didn't visit France last week. Okay, the next one. I went to the club last night. And here he said ask. So we need to ask. So before you ask, you have to choose or see the first word. The first word here, which is I. So this is yes and no or WH? Correct, WH. So which WH word I'm going to write? What, when, why, where? So I have to choose the thing. So for example, I would choose last night. So to ask about last night I use when. That's correct. So I will write when. And after when I put the helping verb. What's the helping verb in the past? Did. So when did, and I will be you. When did you? Now be careful. I have did, which means that the verb must be infinitive. So what's the infinitive of went? Go. So when did you go to the club? And don't forget the question mark. When did you go to the club? And put the question mark. The second one, the third one, she loved the present. So she loved the present. So this one we have to look at the first word. She. WH or yes or no? WH. So I have to choose the thing to ask about. So I will ask about, for example, the present. Yes. So to ask about the present, it's a thing. So I'll say what. And after what I put the helping verb. What's the helping verb in the past? Did. What did she? And after did I put infinitive. What did she love? So the answer will be she loved the present. The next one. We had a wonderful time together. And here he said change this one to negative. So I write we. Negative in the past means didn't. And after didn't I put the verb in infinitive. What's the infinitive of had? Excellent. It's have. So we didn't have a wonderful time. Okay, let's move on. They dots a wonderful time yesterday. They dots a wonderful time yesterday. Do you see the word yesterday, which is the key word for the past? So they spent, spended. Do you remember the word spend? Is it regular or irregular? Yes, excellent. It's irregular. So I cannot choose spend because it's infinitive, and here I'm talking about the past. And I cannot use spended because it's not regular. So of course the answer will be spent. The next one. I didn't dots home yesterday. I didn't dots home yesterday. So what do I have here? Did not. So means that the verb after them must be infinitive. Excellent. So went, go, or gone. Very good. It's go. The next one. She brought enough food with them. She brought enough food with them. So here I need to change this one to negative. So I will say she, and after she I put the negative, which will be didn't. Excellent. So she didn't. And after didn't, infinitive verb. So the past of brought is bring. So she didn't bring enough food with them. Okay, the next one. They went to the gym. Here we have where. That means I have to ask a question using where. So I'm asking about the place, which will be the gym. Yes. So where? After where, I put the helping verb did. Where did they? And we said that after did, verb infinitive. So what's the infinitive of went? Go. So where did they go? And I have to put a question mark. The next one. We visited Hurghada 4 nights ago. 4 nights ago. We visited Hurghada 4 nights ago. So here he said that I have to use when. So I'm asking about 4 nights ago. So I will say when, and after when helping verb did, and we. Do you remember we? I put in the question what? Do you remember? Excellent. You. So when did you, and after did the verb is infinitive. When did you visit Hurghada? And don't forget the question mark. Okay, the next one. I bought a new phone 3 days ago. And he said use did not, which means I have to use the negative. That's right. So I will say I, negative, which is did not or didn't. I did not, and after it I have to put the infinitive. Bought. What's the infinitive of bought? Excellent. Buy. I did not buy a new phone. Three days ago. And that will be it for our lesson today. I hope that you study it more to help you more with that term, and please keep practicing the grammar. Thank you and goodbye.